Yeah, just to have Lewis there with Kimi, yeah, it was a hell of a moment. It's one that I'll cherish.
That man is Peter Bonnington. Most Formula One fans have never seen his face, but every single one of them has heard his voice. He is the engineer in the headset, the calm in the storm, the man who has spent over a decade whispering into the ears of Formula One's greatest drivers, guiding them through the moments that define careers. He helped Jenson Button win a world championship and spent 12 seasons with Lewis Hamilton, the most successful driver-engineer partnership in the history of the sport. 6 titles, 84 race victories, together. But then Lewis Hamilton left, and Bono was handed a teenager. Toto signed him, Gwen found him. But one man built him, and nobody is talking about it. To understand what makes this story so remarkable, you first need to understand who Peter Bonnington actually is. Born in 1975, Bonnington didn't arrive in Formula One as a hotshot prodigy. He started at the bottom, as a data engineer at Jordan Grand Prix in 2004. He processed numbers, he read telemetry, he learned the sport from the inside out. From Jordan, he moved to Honda, where he worked as understudy to Andrew Shovlin, one of the most respected engineers in the paddock. When Honda collapsed and became Brawn GP in 2009, Bonnington stayed. And that year, he helped Jenson Button pull off one of the greatest underdog championship wins in Formula One history. Then came Mercedes, Michael Schumacher, and the beginning of something none of them could yet see. When Schumacher retired after 2012, a new driver arrived at Mercedes, a driver who would change the sport forever. Lewis Hamilton, and Peter Bonnington, quietly, without fanfare, became his race engineer. What followed was 12 years, 6 world championships, 84 victories. In that time, Bono's voice became one of the most recognizable sounds in the sport. Calm when everything was chaos, precise when margins were millimeters, the anchor that Hamilton always came back to. Hamilton himself said it best: the driver-engineer relationship is everything, and theirs was the greatest the sport had ever seen. So when Hamilton announced in February 2024 that he was leaving for Ferrari, the entire paddock asked the same question. What happens to Bono? Most people assumed Bonnington would follow Hamilton to Maranello. It made sense. They had built something together that didn't feel finished. 12 years of shared language, shared instinct, shared history. But Bonnington stayed. Mercedes not only kept him, they promoted him. He became head of trackside performance, overseeing all race engineering communications across the team, and they gave him a new driver. Not a veteran, not a safe choice. An 18-year-old from Bologna who had never driven a single lap in Formula One, Kimi Antonelli. Think about what that means for a moment. Bonnington had spent over a decade working beside the most complete, the most decorated driver in the sport's modern era. A man who arrived at Mercedes already a world champion, a man who knew exactly what he needed and how to ask for it. And now, he was starting again, from zero, with a teenager. Bonnington described it himself. It was chalk and cheese. Everything he had taken for granted, the shorthand, the rhythm, the instinct, was gone. He had to relearn how to be a race engineer. Most people in his position would have found that terrifying. Bono found it energizing. The 2025 season was not easy. Nobody pretended it would be. Antonelli started with flashes of brilliance, 4th on debut in Melbourne, a sprint pole in Miami. But then the European leg arrived and the wheels came off. 7 races, mechanical failures, rookie mistakes, a home race at Imola where Toto Wolff publicly called his performance underwhelming. And through all of it, Bono was in his ear. After Monza, where Antonelli picked up a penalty, finished 9th and the criticism reached its loudest, Bonnington did something that surprised people. He didn't coddle him. He didn't soften the edges. He gave him a dressing down. Behind closed doors, away from cameras and microphones, Bonnington sat Kimi down and told him, in clear terms, that it wasn't good enough, that he was capable of more. that the mistakes had to stop. That's what the best engineers do. They aren't yes men, they aren't cheerleaders. They are the ones who tell you the truth when no one else will, because they believe in what you can become. Toto Wolff later described Bonnington as both a good mentor and a strong boss for Antonelli. Not one or the other, both. And it worked. From Brazil onwards, a different Kimi Antonelli began to emerge. Fewer errors, better tyre management, a growing understanding of what the car needed and when. The list of things Bono was correcting was getting shorter, week by week, race by race. Bonnington saw it before anyone else did. He said so himself. In the private test sessions, the TPC runs, it only took Kimi about 4 laps to start matching the high-speed corners. That's when he knew. A diamond in the rough. Just took a little bit of polishing. Shanghai, China, March 2026. Kimi Antonelli took pole position, shattering Sebastian Vettel's record to become the youngest pole sitter in Formula One history. And the next day, he crossed the finish line first. His first Formula One victory. And on that podium in China, a moment that nobody planned, nobody scripted, stood 3 men. Kimi Antonelli on the top step, Lewis Hamilton on the second step, in Ferrari red. And between them, collecting the Constructors' Trophy for Mercedes, Peter Bonnington. To have Lewis there with Kimi was a hell of a moment, one I will remember for the rest of my life. The man who had spent 12 years beside Hamilton, the man who was now building the next chapter with Antonelli, standing between the past and the future, holding the trophy. But China was just the beginning. Japan, Miami, Canada, Monaco, 5 consecutive victories. 5 times Bono's voice crackled through the radio as Kimi crossed the line first. 5 times the kid from Bologna proved everyone wrong. At Monaco, the most unforgiving circuit in the world, the one track where a single mistake ends your race, Antonelli produced a qualifying lap that his own engineer described as magic. Pole position, lights out, and led every lap. Won by nearly 30 seconds before the safety car wiped it out. And through multiple restarts, multiple red flags, multiple moments where Hamilton in the Ferrari was right behind him, Kimi held. Every time. Bonnington was on the radio for every single one of those moments. Calm, precise, the anchor, just like always. Here's the thing about Bono and Kimi that nobody tells you. They are genuinely funny together. It started at the Bahrain test, Kimi's first official days as a Mercedes Formula One driver. It was Bonnington's birthday, and Kimi, with a grin that suggested he had been planning this for a while, shoved a cream cake directly into his face. It escalated from there. Water guns in the paddock. And then, Kimi blocked Bono's access card. Everywhere. So that when Bonnington tried to enter the Mercedes factory, he was locked out of his own workplace. The video went viral. 1.4 million views. 200,000 likes. And the comment that captured the whole thing: Bono and Kimi have got to be my favourite driver-engineer duo on the grid right now. It's a small detail, but it matters, because it tells you something about how Bonnington works. With Hamilton, it was 12 years of shared professional brilliance, mutual respect built through experience, through titles, through war. With Kimi, it is something different. The paddock has started calling him Uncle Bono, the experienced hand, the one who knows when to put an arm around a 19-year-old, and when to sit him down and tell him the truth. Bonnington described Kimi as a joy to work with, and you believe him, because happy driver, fast lap time, he said that too. There's a question people keep asking in Formula One right now. Is Kimi Antonelli the real deal? 5 victories in a row. The youngest driver ever to lead the standings. The youngest pole sitter in history. But here's the thing nobody is asking, and maybe they should be. Who made him? Toto Wolff signed him. Gwen Legru found him. But Bono built him. Race by race. Radio call by radio call. A dressing down in a motorhome in Monza. A quiet word at the right moment. A prank war that kept a teenager loose and fearless in the most pressurized environment in sport. Peter Bonnington has spent his entire career in the shadows, the voice behind the visor, the name in the small print. And yet, without him, there is no Hamilton dynasty. Without him, there may be no Antonelli era. Lewis Hamilton is still out there in Ferrari red, fighting for one last title, with a new engineer, a new team, a new chapter. And that man, he's already moved on. Bono doesn't drive the car. He doesn't design the car. He doesn't sign the contracts. He just talks. And somehow, the right drivers always end up winning. You decide how much of that is coincidence.